Okay, we can. Okay, we can go ahead and. Okay, William, go ahead and can you do this for me, please? Thank you.
Namo Fundamental Teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Fundamental Teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Fundamental Teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. The unsurpassed, deep, profound, subtle, wonderful Dharma in 100,000 million eons is difficult to encounter. Now that I've come to receive and hold it within my sight and hearing, I vow to fathom the thus come one's true and actual meaning.
Good. Okay. All right. So last time we already learned through all these things here. So let's okay. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay, we are also done with the summary. Yeah. So now we will go into the actual text. Okay. I said, wait for me one second. Okay, sorry everyone. All right. So we can continue on our way. So we learn about the guide to the Bodhisattva, right? The way of life. So we are ready to go to the introduction as well as the summary of each chapter, and we already go through the outline of the chapter 1, right? So now we will go into the actual text of the chapter 1. Okay, go ahead, William. You can help me to.
The excellence of bodhicitta, the expression of worship. Original verse. Respectfully, I prostrate myself to the Sagatas, who are endowed with the Dharmakaya, as well as their noble sons, and to all who are worthy of veneration. The actual text begins with Shantideva's homage or prostration to the Buddhas, literally to the Sagatas, those who have gone to bliss, their noble sons and daughters, and all other venerable objects of worship. This prostration is in fact Shantideva's way of paying respect to the three precious and sublime jewels of Buddhist refuge, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. A more detailed explanation of these three jewels will be given later in this commentary. For now, it is sufficient to state that Buddha is a fully awakened being. Dharma is the spiritual teaching, such as a being gives others to lead them from suffering and dissatisfaction to temporary and ultimate happiness. While the Sangha is the community of those following these enlightening teachings, why is it necessary to go to refuge in these three objects? If a sick person is to get well again, he or she must rely upon a skillful physician, effective medicine, and sympathetic and attentive nurses. In the same way, sentient beings caught up in the vicious cycle of cyclic existence, samsara is the Sanskrit word for that, are all afflicted by the sickness of their delusions, having found nothing in which they can take true refuge. Only by entrusting themselves to Buddha, the perfect physician, the medicine of Dharma, and the Sangha nurses, will they ever be cured of their ailments. Therefore, if there is to be an end to our dissatisfaction and suffering, we must discover and entrust ourselves to these three precious and sublime jewels. In the first part of verse 1,
I think okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Shantideva himself pays homage to the three jewels in order to eliminate the obstacles that might arise while composing this text. He prostrates first to the Sagatas, or Buddhas, who are endowed with the truth body, Dharmakaya, of an enlightened being, as well as with all Dharma jewels. He then pays homage to the Sangha by prostrating to the Bodhisattvas, the Buddha's noble sons and daughters, and lastly, he pays homage to the abbots and preceptors and all those worthy of veneration. This concludes his expression of worship.
Okay, what do you understand about this thing?
So, I think this is it's a very strong foundation for him to begin with, and it also is establishing this right view. So Shantideva from the outset is laying his ego low, like he's not saying, I'm so amazing, listen to what I have to say. But his first is really giving honor to, the source of the realization he has, which are, the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And we see this in really all forms of Buddhist practice, of acknowledging the goodness of the three jewels, and also consciously taking refuge in them because they're pure and lead to liberation.
Okay. So basically, it's the homage to the three, the Triple, right? The Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, and the son and the daughter. That means the Bodhisattva, right? Okay. So in here, when he point out that he need to venerate the Triple, why it's so important that we need to fully prostrate the Triple?
Well, it's an expression definitely of the principle that it's not the greatness of ourself, of our identity, that is responsible for any sort of accomplishment in working with the Dharma. That certainly, diligence is important, and there's a role of effort, but it flows from the teachings of the Buddha. We're really acknowledging the source of our practice, the source of turning towards these teachings. If the Buddha had never taught them, would we realize them on our own in this lifetime? I mean, very likely no. So it seems like it's an honor which is due, which makes a lot of sense, and it appropriately orients the mind to the reality of the situation, and generates a degree of humbleness and openness which is very important in practice, because, you know, if any of us, I think, ever feels too important, like, oh, I've studied all these sutras, I've done all these things, now I am this type of person, no matter what my actions are, I'm a good person because I've done these things and it's just what I am. And if we don't keep our humility and like recognize that in any moment we could make a bad choice, but if we become too arrogant, then we could cause some sort of, you know, negative karma. We could hurt someone. So I think this, like, it's an act of humility and of correctly orienting the mind to keep those, you know, those sorts of pitfalls away.
Very good. Tell me, can you tell me the before? Can you tell me the difference before you become Buddhist and after you became Buddhist? Is there any difference?
Yeah, I mean, there's a huge difference. Before I became Buddhist, I was very confused and full of fear and shame and guilt. But after I found Buddhism and became Buddhist, then I came to accept things a lot more easily, and I released the fear and all the fear and the shame and the guilt. It was easy to release that, and also the anger. I had a lot of anger, and was able to really release those types of feelings, and became a lot less confused because it was easier for me to accept what was happening. Where before I was kind of taught to deny a lot of things and just, you know, laugh them off or push them away, where Buddhism taught me it was okay to accept what, you know, I was feeling or knowing, or just like with, for example, like invisible beings or reincarnation. Those were things that before people had just laughed off and I just kind of cut off from. So that part, those things like that are a lot more accepted and understood.
Yeah, that's very good experience that you shared to us. Very valuable. What about you, William?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I found Buddhism at a major turning point in my life. So I had actually just been suspended from school, and my last 8 weeks of 8th grade. And at the time, you know, I was right before I was suspended, I was just into all sorts of like bad stuff, like vandalism, and I started smoking marijuana when I was like 12 or 13. And I was really wasting my potential, but I ended up getting kicked out of school and was struck by this kind of lack of dignity, like lack of self-respect, but also like lack of the people in my life having respect for me. And I think I initially saw Buddhism as a way to like to have some sense of dignity. Like the concept of Buddhism was everyone I knew, the way that they related to it was something that was looked at as something very like elevated and special and like beyond them. And so I felt like, oh, if I could get into it. So I think I got into it for a little bit of an egoic reason. But then over time, just the teachings did really change me. I became vegetarian. I really, really turned inward and stopped looking for my satisfaction outwardly. And I mean, dramatic change. Even within the first few years, I kind of relaxed a little bit because I got super serious about it, and a little imbalanced because I had stepped away from the Sangha. But I mean, it's totally transformed my life for the best.
So you say that you follow Buddhism. Well, you learn about Buddhism when you were 15, right?
Would have been, so 8th grade, I would have been 13.
Wow.
13.
Wow, that's very early.
Maybe I had turned 14 already.
Okay.
Maybe, yeah, 13 or 14, yeah.
And you learn Buddhism for a while, and you stop when you stop the Buddhism.
So I wouldn't say I ever like in my mind said I'm stopping Buddhism. I became like after practicing for 3 years, I think 3 years, I had stopped going to the local temple here and was just trying to practice on my own. And I kind of drifted. I got a little extreme because I was frustrated by having to go to school and it interrupting my meditation and the lifestyle I had gotten into over the summer. And so I started getting really rigid, like trying to make up for that by taking on more and more rules. And I got kind of resentful. It was hard for me to get rides to the temple. And so that's around that time, I got involved with the Zen Center and that helped. But then one of the Zen masters recommended I go to therapy. So I went to therapy with a guy who used to go to the Buddhist temple. And the therapist wanted me to go see this guru, this Indian guru. So he invited me to this event, and the Zen temple was also invited to chant at the event, a chant to Kuan Yin. And I was just really taken by this guru, and her teachings were like, she, welcomed people from all different traditions in. She just wanted to help people be better in whatever religion they were. And it wasn't bad, but it was definitely, there were some things that were not really, the views were not really lining up. And over time, it always drug on me a little bit, but then eventually once I got into med school is when I separated from doing things with her and got like refocused on Buddhism more directly. It was always in my mind in my practice, and I always thought about it, but I just wasn't engaged with the Sangha for those years.
So when you follow that guru, so she is not teaching the Buddhism, but she teaches some differently. That's right. So you are not not aligned with the Buddhism at the beginning.
She would occasionally talk about the Buddha, very rarely. And she, a lot of the teachings that she taught were ran in the same direction as Buddhist teachings. There are a few little ways she diverged, but the sense I got, if I was being generous in my evaluation, I would say that she was trying to bring in as many people as she could. So she was staying as broad as she could, trying not to turn anyone off. But she talked about Jesus a lot. She talked about Jesus a whole lot. But I think it's because most Americans accept Jesus. And so she was more conservative with talking about other traditions, but still did, she would honor the Buddha, and she would speak very highly of the Buddha, but wasn't matching up. She didn't know all of the Buddha Dharma.
Yeah, I understand. Okay, that's good to know. And Jimmy, what about you and Jimmy?
Dạ, một Phật, bà thầy. I was born in a family with Buddhist religion. But when I was young, very young, I think around maybe 10 or 11, I used to, because I live with my grandma, and at night, when she go to the temple, I follow her. And then at the time I was young and, just hanging around, and she took me there for maybe a few years. But when the time I grew up, a teenager, we escaped Vietnam and tried to come to the United States, which is I did, and I focused more on the career versus practices any Buddhism. And then by the time the masters have an enlightenment temple, that's when I joined with the Kimberly and my two sons. Since then, I put to me I do a lot more than before, and then now you join, and then now I try to stick with it more and try to help the two young men for him to understand what is the Buddhism like in the life of that. And then now I just want to do the best for others before thinking for myself, and then help everybody, even here, Vietnam, relative, non-relative. That's how. And then the more I into it, it helped me to be a better person, get away from greed, stupidity, and what was the third one? I forgot. Kind of, keep my mind.
Hatred.
Yeah, hatred, and then kind of be go to that Buddha path, become a Bodhisattva, a Bodhicitta.
Bodhichitta. You develop a Bodhichitta. Okay.
Yes.
That's good.
Thank you, Thầy.
Thank you for your sharing. Cô Lan, you want to say your story?
Dạ thưa thầy, I don't have anything to talking about me, thầy.
No. Before and after. Before you become Buddhism and after you become Buddhism, what the difference?
Understand more what happened to me. That's all. The time before, I don't understand why, how it happened. Later on, after I learn, I know why and how it happened to us. That's all. Yeah.
Okay, that's so good. Thank you. So for me, the way I come to Buddhism is when it came to the because I was a boat people. I left the country when I was very young. I think at that time I was about 13 years old in 1982. When I came to the refugee camp in Malaysia, and that's where I start I went to the temple there, and that I found myself very interested in temple at the beginning. But during those days, it's very rare to have the master to share the Dharma. Very rare. So we just go to the temple and we do all the chanting. And when I came to the United States, and I was also very young. I do not have a car. I have to depend on others. So there is a friend here. He about 5, 6 years older than me. He have a car and he took me to the temple every week. And that I found myself to be enjoy doing the chanting. But at those times, it's very rare to have any master to share the teaching. That was around 84 and 85, something like that. And from that, I also, when I was about when I was in the senior year, right, I decided to seeking for the master who can be able to teach me the Dharma. And it spent many years. I could not be able to find one. And I went to the temple. I do all the charity service at the temple, but still don't get much benefit. So after 2 years, I decided to focus on my study. Because at that time I was in the university. And later on, I also follow the Venerable Master Thích Nhất Hạnh, right? He just passed away. On one of the range, the small range in California, Southern California. But I followed them for maybe not even a year, and I don't find it suitable for me. So because that is good for the young people who love to get together and have the little practice and enjoy. I am not that type of person. So I'm very serious into learning Buddhism, and I still not be able to find. And you know what? There was an old lady. She told me that she see that I'm not fit in this group, and she suggests that I should go to the Venerable Master Sangha. That means the city of 10,000 Buddha, and that's why I came to the one of the temple. It belongs to the city of 10,000 Buddha monastery, and I start learning the Dharma. I start learning and also practice Buddhism since then in 1996. In 1999, I found my master. That's the He is the one right here. I know him since then, 99 till 2018. That is the time I give up everything to become a monk. And you know what? When I first listened to the Suranga Sutra, I be able to understand the core teaching of the Buddhism. And since then, I enjoy practice Buddhism and also enjoy learning the Dharma. And I decide to become a monk when I during the time it's beginning of 2004. But you know what? I have a lot of burden to take care, especially my parents. So, but after my mom passed away in 2012, and I settled out everything, and when time comes, and that's what 2018 I decided to become a monk. So, and you know what? During the time I practice Buddhism, for me is very easy when I step into it. It's just like it's not too difficult. Maybe I have a very good route in the past. That's a good route in the past. So that's why I enjoy. And also when I became the novice monk, right? In 2018, that is the time I start learning about the consciousness only. I put all my energy day and night. I spend most of my time for the whole day to learn that straight 3 months. For 3 months, I not be able to understand the consciousness only. And you know what? After 3 months, I'll be able to visualize and contemplate the whole, because I researched many different sources. And from all that source together, I have to contemplate and connect all the dots. And I'll be able to create you and understand the purpose of the consciousness study. And from that is the foundation for me to walk into the Mahayana system. And that's what I start teaching the consciousness only for the English, for this class right here, basically, since 2019, January 2019, till now. That was when I were the novice monk. So, and since then, when I be able to understand the concept and only, I be able to connect with the Buddhist psychology, and all those things become very clear to me. And now I be able to understand the Western psychology in terms of depression. So all these things, it just come when the condition is right. It just comes. It smoothly connect. I don't expect, but it connect. So it's wonderful. That is my experience of the Buddhism. So the only thing when I practice Buddhism, the only thing I focus is the Bodhichitta. Whatever I do, I always go back to the Bodhichitta because that is my I don't know why I so pawn onto the Bodhichitta, but now I do know why. Before I did not understand what is the Bodhichitta, but now we start to get into it. We are about to understand what that means. And Bodhichitta in Asian countries like China and Vietnam, we do not focus on this thing. We don't talk about this thing a lot. But in Tibet, I just found out that they are very focusing on this thing. And this is the most important practice. Right? So that's why, so that is how I found myself at Buddhism. And during the time that I practiced Buddhism, a lot of good things I encountered, I experienced. But anyway, okay. Anyway, that's good. That's good. So let me ask you a question here. If a person say that I can learn Buddhism without taking refuge of the triple gem, is that a good thing? What do you think, William?
Well, I I think one of the first things they would eventually learn the value in taking refuge in the triple gems. If they really learned about Buddhism, eventually they should come to understand that. So no, I wouldn't say it's a good thing.
Well, it's okay. You can learn Buddhism. That's good. That's good. That's good. But when we do not take in the refuge, taking the refuge into the triple gem, it's not a symbolic, but it's more into the spiritual path. This is very important. Before I explain to you this, I want to show you this. Now we will dig into this. I don't know if I share you this one or not, but all right. Tammy, you go ahead and read this one for me, please, Tammy.
Okay, this time.
Thus I have heard. On a certain occasion, the Buddha was staying near Savatthi at Jetta Grove in Anantha Pindaka's park. At that time, the Buddha told the elder Antha Pindaka to hear. About a long time, for many kalpas ago, there was a Brahmin named Tai Lama who had a lot of money and jewels. When giving alms, he used 84,000 gold bowls full of silver, 84,000 silver bowls full of gold. Again, he took 84,000 bowls made of gold and silver, and 84,000 buffaloes covered their horns with gold and silver, and took 84,000 jade ladies with full adornment, and took 84,000 seats with the silk covers on top. and took 84,000 clothings, and took 84,000 elephants and horses, and all used gold and silver to make the headstall to tie their heads and mounts. Again took 84,000 rooms to alms, again to give alms at the four gates of the city, and he gave them all according to whatever the receivers wanted, but used only one room to give alms to monks coming from the four directions. The merits from the above alms giving is not equal to taking 3 refuges. Why? Because a person who takes the 3 refuge is to perform fearlessness, giving to all sentient beings. So taking refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, and his or her merits and virtues cannot be counted. The merits of such generosity.
Okay, that's good. Stop right here. That's good. Thank you. So can you summarize and tell me what's going on here?
So what it's representing is it's explaining that giving of the money is not nearly as valuable as giving of the fearlessness. So the 3 types of giving: the giving of money or time, the giving of fearlessness, and the giving of the Dharma. So it's showing the value of giving of fearlessness that you receive by taking refuge in a triple jewel, that's more valuable than any type of money that you give.
But why the taking 3 refuge to the triple jewel? The fearlessness given.
Watch is a grappling hook my foot.
Can you tell me you understand my question?
Yeah, I understand your question. I'm trying to come up with an answer. I mean, because it helps you to have the fearlessness and the non-attachment and the patience. So then you're able to have fearlessness that you can provide to other beings. When you take refuge, you learn those qualities.
Good. That's good. Thank you. Okay, let's see. Hanbei, what do you think? Hanbei, before that, we just say each other about before and after become the Buddhist. So what is your experience on that thing?
Yeah, I'm about that. I think people who take refuge with the triple jewels, they can be able to study the Dharma and be given protection from the Buddha and Bodhisattva, Mahasava. They receive protection from studying the Dharma. Okay. So for the one who does not want to take 3 refugees, and they are not ready to enter the way, they're not ready to learn the Dharma. They're only just to learn to study the Dharma only for their benefit.
La de Google ofrecen capacitación para trabajo.
Right.
The one who does not want to take refuge with the 3 triple jewels because they only want to learn the Dharma only for the benefits, like to use as to make publish the books, or they want to study the Dharma only just because they are not ready to enter the way.
Okay. William, what do you think?
Yeah, there's other stories too. Like there's this story about King Shakra, who was going to fall into a lower rebirth, was going to be reborn as a lamb, but at last moment took refuge in the Buddha, and so was reborn as a lamb, but then died and was reborn right away as King Shakra. So that, like, the merit of it, I think can be understood in the intention, and that, like, a demonstration of the right view. And because if we're taking refuge in the three jewels, one thing we're acknowledging that the Buddha and the Buddha's teachings in the community are a true refuge. We're acknowledging the value. So we've seen something clearly. We've seen that this desire to liberate living beings from suffering, which is the heart of the Buddha, and to establish them all on the same level. Like, it's so rare that we see an example of a being that is free from greed, that is free from some sort of self-seeking, some sort of interest in the material world. And this, we're like acknowledging the purity of the Buddha's intentions and teachings and aligning ourselves with that. And it is the seed of the precepts, and the precepts are in turn the seeds of Buddhahood. So everything that will come if we continue in that path is, it's the realization of Buddhahood eventually. So if someone gave all of these things to help people, well, they could still be very much interested and attached to of things and desire, and not acknowledging that, well, they really need to like see through and move beyond desire, like getting that desire as part of it, the root of the cause. So just giving is not necessarily going to help one move beyond desire or hatred or stupidity, but taking refuge is the first step in really sincerely applying the teachings in order to to progress or to unwind oneself from
the
influences of the three poisons.
Okay, you are right. So basically, it's when we do a lot of giving, right? It doesn't help us to transform the mind of greed, hatred, and ignorance. Correct. You look at in this world, right? We a lot of people holding the highest rank in the government, right? Official rank in the government, president, senator, congressman, whatever, right? Billionaire, millionaire. But those people, do you think they benefit the order? Mostly, no? Yes?
It varies highly from person to person. I think many of them certainly do not give close to as much as they could.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
I think it's variable from person to person, but clearly none of them are completely selfless. Clearly they have strong self-interest and are not giving as much as they could.
Look at the from the one who run for the office, right? They only care about themselves. They promise many things, but they did deliver not many, right? And the reason they want to deliver is because they want to get vote from other people, right? That's the whole idea. And they are very selfish. And you know what? And you could do today reading, and they already want to do it to make sure they, as long as they can be able to holding the office and they can use the power, they abuse the power. Well, that generally we see in this world right now. And the billionaire, the millionaire, like the businessman, right? They have a company and they do they manufacture things. But when they do that, you look at the global warming, right? People care less. Polluted environment here and there, everywhere. Even the scientists, right, warn them, if we don't do anything within next 5 years, 10 years, the Arctic, the frozen snow will melt out. And you know what does that mean? When they melt out, all the country who live nearby the seashore, right? The coast, they will be sink. You see, they careless, and they say that if, and you know what, in the next 50 years, we will have 1 or 2 degrees of the temperature rise up. It's a huge difference. And you see the cycle of the weather right now is unpredictable. Even the weather professional may not be able to predict correctly. And you know what? And a lot of time the politics, they just play game to get the vote, and they care less about people, honestly. And you know what? Due to their good deed in the past, they enjoy the blessing. But when they enjoy the blessing, they pray a lot of karma. You see that? Because when they do the good deed in the past, they do with the ego. They do with the self attachment. They cannot be able to transform the greed, the hatred, and the ignorance. Therefore, when they enjoy the blessing, at the same time, those things come up, right? They will destroy them. They are the one who destroy themselves. And at the same time, they destroy other people. And that's why in the Flower Adornment Sutra, the Buddha said that even though we do all the good deeds in this world, but if we forget to generate the to develop the Bodhichitta, or those good deeds equal to the demon deed. Does it make sense?
Mhm.
Why demon deed? Because the first life, when in the first life we do the good deed. The second life we enjoy. The third life we fall into the evil realm. That's what the demon. This is important. Tell me, you understand so far, right? Tell me.
Yes, I understand, but now you're scaring me because I interviewed at a manufacturing company.
What? You
And I know before you told me not to be too like detailed and worried about it. As far as like wrong livelihood, would you just mention manufacturing and its effect on global warming?
No. We are talking about, we live in this world in the duality. We have to be relative, right? The one that who care for that the most is the owner of the company. Everywhere we go, they will be involved with one way or the other. We cannot escape. We cannot seek for perfect. No, we don't need to look for the perfect, but we look for the reasonable to make a living. Does it make sense to me?
Yes, that makes sense.
So, yeah.
I have another question about taking refuge in the Triple Jewel.
Mm-hmm.
So I was confused on this in the beginning because when I first came to Buddhism, I was taking the meditation classes on Friday night and then doing the Dharma classes in the evening.
Mm-hmm.
And so I read some of the sutras and I understood that, become Buddhist, that's what you needed to do, was take refuge in the Triple Jewel. And about a year after in the December I started coming to the temple in late January. And in December, one of the guys that was in the meditation class, when I came in, he was talking to the master, and then he was talking about becoming Buddhist, and the master told him that he needed to take refuge. And then the master asked me, if I wanted to take refuge in the Triple Jewel also. And I was confused because I thought that's what I had been doing. But I didn't realize that there was a whole ceremony to it. And so, of course I wanted to join in that ceremony to officially do it. So when you're saying, and we're talking about taking refuge in the Triple Jewel, I mean, you're not talking about, I mean, do you have to go as far as a ceremony, or can you just take refuge in general? Because that's what I thought. Like I said, I didn't know there was a ceremony. So that's what I thought I was doing. But then when he mentioned that, you know, there was an actual process to it. But I mean, one could actually not go through the process, because then I came to realize that a lot of people at the temple that were very involved in the temple didn't have Dharma names. So they had never really went through the ceremony. But I would assume they're still, I mean, Buddhist, and that they've still taken refuge in the Triple Jewel, even though they haven't like officially did the ceremony and received the Dharma name.
Okay, got it. Yeah. Let's put it this way. Whatever, let's say that the president, when they run for any kind of office running, right? You run for any office, right? For the president or vice president, whatever. When you want the position, right? And you have to have the ceremony, right? To certify for your officially to become the president of the United States or whatever the position, senator or congressman or congresswoman. The same idea. Does it make sense so far? So, yeah, go ahead, Ami.
Yes, that makes sense.
Okay, the same thing here. Buddhism, we don't force anyone to follow us. They follow us only, they follow the Buddha teaching up to their will. This is the free will. We don't force them, we don't manipulate them, we just help them to understand the Dharma and let them decide to go forward. That is the better way. Because once you become voluntarily, this is the long, good relationship with the Dharma, with the Buddha, and with the Sangha. If someone forces someone to do it, it's not a good relationship. It's only temporary. Does that make sense, right? And let's say that I am who spend a lot of time to learn the Dharma without taking the three refuge, right? Well, it's good, right? It's really good. But why the taking the three refuge is so significant compared to the one who learn the Dharma but do not take in the three refuge? When we learn the Dharma and we are not seriously to become Buddhism, and that means you don't have the full faith in the Buddhism. Faith is the most important. That is the first step to step into the ocean of the wisdom. This is the most important. Now I want to let you hear this sutra. The Kamala Sutra. We already learned about it already. But hold on.
The Buddha would walk holy teachers of his time. The Buddha would walk from village to village, teaching, answering questions, and talking with all sorts of people. One day, together with some of his followers, the Buddha arrived at the town of Kesaputta, home of the Kalama people. The Buddha is here! An enlightened one is here! The news spread of the Buddha's arrival. They had heard about this teacher, a man famous for great wisdom. Everyone wanted to see him. Respectfully, they sat down around him. They had a burning question.
Sir, we often have visits from holy teachers. Each one tells us how to live our lives. Some say, if you want to be happy, it's very important to burn the right kind of incense every evening. Another says, no, you just need to wash your hands with cow's urine every morning.
And then other holy teachers come along with their ideas and say they are right and the other teachers are stupid. We don't know who to believe. How can we tell which of them is speaking the truth?
Just that they are right and the other teachers are wrong.
I'm not surprised you are confused, because this is indeed a difficult question. It's important not to believe what someone tells you just because lots of other people think like that, or because it is traditional, or because there are rumors about it. Don't believe someone because they seem to know the scriptures very well, or because they have strong opinions. Also, don't believe what someone says where there is no evidence, or without much discussion, or just because it sounds familiar. You can't even just believe someone who seems knowledgeable and educated, even if you feel respect for them as your teacher. The only way to know whether someone is speaking the truth is to test their advice in your own experience. Then, if you feel really sure that a teaching is likely to cause harm or unhappiness, you should reject it.
If following a teacher's advice makes you feel greedy or angry or full of hatred or confusion, is that helpful?
No, certainly not.
Ask yourself how things might turn out if you follow a particular piece of advice. For example, if you take things which aren't yours, are you likely to cause harm to yourself or others?
If you speak untruthfully, or cloud your mind with drink or drugs, are you likely to cause harm to yourself or others?
You can also think about someone more experienced than you, whose opinion you already respect. What would they think of this teaching? If you really think following a particular piece of advice would help you and others become happy, then go ahead, follow that advice.
To avoid greed, hatred, and confusion? If you found that following a piece of advice helped you, such a teaching would be helpful, wouldn't it?
Yes,
it certainly would.
A person who is free from greed, hatred, and confusion will feel much better.
If your mind is free and peaceful, and your heart is full of love and compassion for the whole world,
you will experience great comfort and happiness.
I have asked you to look to your own experience to decide whether something is worth following or not. But when it comes to the problem of what happens after death, it's not possible to do this, is it? There are so many views and opinions, but how can we know in our own experience?
However, remember what I have taught you today, that living ethically, with kindness and wisdom, leads to your happiness and well-being. This is true for this life, and if there are future lives, it will be true for those too. So, regardless of what you believe, the important thing is that you are trying to live with a clear mind and a kind heart, and that you consider the consequences of your actions for yourselves and others around you.
Fantastic, sir. Fantastic. It's like someone lighting a candle in darkness.
The Kalamas were so impressed and grateful at the Buddha's answer.
So, regardless of what you believe, the important thing is that you are trying to live with a clear mind, a kind heart, and consider the consequence of your action for yourselves, and others around you.
All right. So, what do you think about this, William?
Yeah, this makes sense. That we shouldn't simply outsource our own contemplation, our own thinking about a teaching to someone else. We shouldn't just say, okay, because this person says it, I'm going to believe it. That we have to really take it upon ourselves to look into it and to prove or disprove it in our daily life. To be mindful of, if we think it's a good idea after contemplating it, be mindful of what happens when we apply it. With that, this sort of the yardstick of, does it make oneself and others happy, is, I think, a really good measure of a positive teaching. Is it bringing benefits to everyone involved?
Yeah, not simply just believe blindly, right? So we have to be very mindful to what we are involved in, and and that's why in order to have the right faith is very important. But when we learn without engage into the Tibetan, the faith that we have is not strong. It did not show the sincerity. And when we learn without taking the three bad field, the self, the ego will grow. It will over to take your teaching, the Dharma that you know. So that means the more we learn, the more ego, the more arrogant we have. You see? But when we become Buddhism, we learn how to become humbleness. And when we fully respect the Tibetan, that help us, just like in the beginning of this book, right? He said that he praising the Tibetan. That's how he become humbleness. Right? He is such a good guru. He's still doing that. What about us? We are nothing compared to him, right? So I will talk more about this for the next week, and this is very important to see this. Because I'm a little bit late. So we have to be very careful. That's why when we have the right faith into the Tibetan, and we take in the three refuge, and that's why we learn the Dharma. And when we learn the Dharma, that means we live rightly, right? We will not harm others. This is represent for the fearlessness. Does that make sense, William?
Yes.
The fearlessness, it comes from when you understand the Dharma. And therefore, we do not harm others. That gives them the fearlessness from your loving kindness and compassion. Tell me, that makes sense to you? Tell me.
Yes, that makes sense. I was wondering, can you send us my children were watching the video with me and they would like to watch it again. Do you have the link to it? Can you send us the link?
Yeah, let me do that now.
Thank you. My daughter was like, don't believe everyone. They were understanding. It's cute.
Oh, wow. Don't believe in anyone. That's the big one. Okay, that's good. Okay, all right. Okay, I sent to you, everyone. Okay. All right, let's go through this. We're done for the day here.
Excuse me, Thầy. Mo Phật. We need to pray for Ukrainian people. They're in the war right now. I feel very terrible for them. I don't know what they have done, and I feel like it's not right for them to be impacted by the war with Russian. So,
but when we pray every day, right? We also transfer the message to the one who died during the war. In the war, we already so it will cover all those people.
All right, thank you. I just thought about them, and I didn't know. Today we're kind of busy at the temple about one day. So I just, thank you. Yeah, Mo Phật Thầy.
Jimmy, go ahead and read this thing. Thank you.
May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with heart of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in given unity, may their minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light break the darkness of their endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise.
Yeah, I'm more about. Thank you, everyone. See you next week.
See you next week. Thank you.
Bà thầy, cảm ơn thầy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.